They say you can't change the past, but as I found out, that is not always true. Let's talk about that in a moment. Just a little aside, I mentioned that these episodes, a lot of them recorded like 7-8 months ago, just in case there's ever a question in your mind about why these things sound like they're out of order or something like that, or not referring to current events, whatever it is. Just so you know. Anyway, let's begin.
This is a beautiful thought.
Welcome, travelers, welcome seekers, welcome beautiful thinkers. I'd like to tell you about how you can heal the past. So, once I was sitting in a deep meditation and I started to think about the past, things that had happened maybe 30 years before, when I was growing up and my family or people around me might have been quite cruel to me, or at least it seemed they were cruel. In their own minds, I'm sure they had the best intentions and they were trying to show me love in the only way they knew how. And sometimes it was poorly communicated because they just didn't have that self-development skills or those communication skills that they needed to really show me the love that I was craving. Some shamans, and I think also in some psychological circles, they say how the subconscious mind doesn't really perceive time in the same way the conscious mind does. So things that are going on in the past are still going on in your subconscious mind. And of course, that means that those things can still affect you. Perhaps if you had a trauma in your life, perhaps it still somehow affects your thinking. But that also means that you can change those things right now, today, in this moment. You can go back to a time when something troubled you and maybe you didn't know how to express yourself or tell somebody, what I really need is tenderness. Please care for me. You can go back and give that tenderness to yourself and show yourself that love and show yourself that the people around you, even though they were imperfect, were actually trying to do good. They might not have done it in the best way, but they were trying. So you always have that opportunity to go back in time. You can rewrite the past, in a sense. You can heal the past. Those times in your life when you felt heartbroken or alone or unloved, you can show yourself that love and tenderness at any moment. I've also learned that sometimes, of course, we do awkward things in this life and we don't express ourselves as clearly as we want to, or we get angry or frustrated. It turns out you can also go back to those moments and start rewriting them as well, and this will affect the future. So I don't mean that you can literally change the past. It's not like your memories will change, but you can put a different framing on those events and you can think, how could I have done that differently? And imagine it. So, for example, if there was a time when you got frustrated and you eventually lost your temper, you can put yourself back in that situation and start to imagine, how could I have handled this better? What could I have said? What could I have done to calm myself down? And maybe you imagine yourself breathing deeply in those moments to settle yourself down, giving yourself a warm hug so you can relax and express yourself more clearly. Now, of course, there are a lot more techniques to this. I learned the other day a technique from cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called the ABCD technique, or ABCD formula. So it starts with the A, which is the activating event. Some people call that a trigger, and that's not a very good term because trigger would mean that you're some kind of machine and you just enact what happens when somebody steps on you, something like that. But it's an activating event. It's something that causes your B, beliefs, to come into play. Your beliefs and your attitudes happen. And then you have C, which is consequences. Perhaps you get emotional. Your anger comes out. Your frustration. And then the final step is D, dispute. So you can write these down. The activating event, what happened. B, your beliefs about the event. C, the consequences. And then you can set out to think about how you could have acted differently or how you could have had a different belief about that situation, which is D, the dispute. So this is a formula that can help you transform how you are at the present, help you analyze your beliefs and change the way that you act in the future. And even more powerful, I think, if you go through this exercise in your journal and then later put yourself into that situation using the insight that you've gained from self-analysis, you can then transform yourself. Imagine yourself being even better. So, through healing the past, we also transform our present and our future. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being grateful for everything wonderful that's happening in your life. Thank you for praising the sun and saying, "Good morning, sun," for shining bright down onto you and giving you that wonderful vitamin D that you need in your life. And thank you for being a beautiful thinker. I'll talk to you soon.
A beautiful thought.
All right. Thanks for listening, and thanks for imagining yourself in the past and beginning to transform your past and redirect your future. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, just remember you can go ahead and send it to one friend and give them a reason why they might like it, how it might enrich their lives. Thank you so much, and most importantly, have a wonderful day.